What's up, guys? It's Jim, and big things are happening right now as the Republicans have just announced their HEALS Act, which is their answer to the Democratic HEROES Act. Now, that was proposed back in May and it actually passed the House. Now, the HEROES Act didn't make it very far after passing the House, but now we finally have something new to look forward to, and that would be the HEALS Act. Is anybody else wondering where they come up with these names? I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. You had the CARES Act, and then the HEROES Act, and then the HEALS Act. You know, it's like, oh, we're caring, we're gonna give you some money, and now we're heroes. We're gonna come in and save the day, and now we're healing the whole situation. I don't know, it's just kind of funny. I feel like they have a team of people just sitting there throwing out random ideas, trying to come up with cool names that sound awesome, right? And then from there, they come up with an acronym that kind of fits the category that it's in. I mean, if we're gonna do that, I wanna see an Avengers Act or a Dwight Schrute Act. Probably be called the Act of Dwight Schrute, right? Maybe a Daenerys Act? I don't know. Let's make it interesting. But anyway, seeing that the HEROES Act actually passed the House all the way back in May, and we haven't seen anything else about the HEROES Act, it's probably unlikely that this thing is actually going into play. But this new HEALS Act has a lot packed inside of it, so let's take a dive inside the HEALS Act and compare it to the original CARES Act that we got back in March. We'll also get into the important things which everybody's wondering about is where's our second stimulus check? How much is this thing going to be? And what is happening with the unemployment boost since it expired last week? Now, as expected, the HEALS Act does include a second wave of stimulus check payment. And these direct payments that would be going into the pockets of the American people that qualify for this is very, very similar to the first wave with the CARES Act, but there are some very important differences. For instance, under the HEALS Act, it would actually be providing more money to the people than the original CARES Act did. And it would also better protect the stimulus payments from creditors. On top of that, it's also said that if you were to click or tap on the like button right now, it would actually turn it blue. I'm telling you, it's crazy, I know. Don't take my word for it though, do it for yourself, hit that button and make it turn blue. It's actually pretty cool. There's a fly. But anyway, yeah, seriously, go do that. It only takes 2 seconds and it greatly helps out my channel. I'd really appreciate it. I did my part making the video, now you do yours and hit the like button. Now, just like the CARES Act, under the HEALS Act, every qualified American would be receiving a stimulus check payment of $1,200. But in addition to that, families would also be receiving $500 per dependent. And this is where things change. You see, with the first round of stimulus, the $500 per dependent was only sent to families with children 16 years and younger. Now, with the new proposal, this $500 per dependent would apply for children who are in high school 17 years and older, and if they're in college up to 23 years old. So basically, any parents or guardians with dependents from age 0 all the way to 23 would be able to receive $500 per dependent. So this second wave would be much more generous in that sense. Take, for example, a family of 4, a married couple and 2 children, 1 in middle school and 1 in college. With the HEALS Act, you would be getting $1,200 per parent, $500 for the child in middle school, and $500 for the child in college. Now, if we're applying this scenario under the CARES Act, you would get the $1,200 per parent, and you would get the $500 for the child in middle school, but you would not get the $500 for the child in college. So with that equation, under the HEALS Act, you'd be getting a total of $3,400, and if it was the CARES method, that would be only $2,900. Now, just like the CARES Act, under the HEALS Act, people would see their stimulus check amount gradually go down to 0 as their income exceeds a certain threshold level. So for single people, that amount would gradually go down to 0 for if they make over $75,000. And for a married couple filing jointly for their taxes, the same method would apply here if they made over $150,000. And finally, if you're the head of a household, your amount would start being reduced if you make over $112,500 a year. Now, one major glitch in the system that was going on with the first wave of stimulus payments was that the IRS was sending checks to dead people. Yeah, while tens of millions of people are still waiting for their first round of stimulus checks, there were millions and millions of people getting these checks that were dead. Now, hopefully with the second round of these stimulus payments under the HEALS Act, there would be a lot less of this going on as they're taking a lot more precautions. This law would specifically exclude people from getting the stimulus check if they died before January 1st, 2020. On top of that, this act would retroactively declare people who died before January 1st, 2020 ineligible for the first round of stimulus payments. So that means if anybody received the first round of stimulus payments who died before 2020, they would have to be giving that money back to the IRS. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's gonna make a pretty messy situation because if you think about it, those people have had that money in their accounts for a couple months now. And in a lot of cases, they probably have spent that money already. So now the IRS is gonna knock on their door and say, hey, you owe us $1,200. I don't know how well that's gonna go over. Now, what about people in jail? Do they get stimulus checks too? Well, under the CARES Act, they weren't really specific on people in jail receiving stimulus payments or not. Honestly, I think it was just an oversight that nobody really thought about. However, in the HEALS Act, they made it very, very clear that people in jail or prison will not be eligible to get this stimulus payment. Now, I thought this was a pretty interesting point to bring up because I kind of feel like this should be more on a sliding base scale, like depending on how long your sentence is. I mean, think about it, if you went away for only 30 days during the middle of this thing, you know, and then you get out and you're back in the real world, should you get the stimulus payment? Like, I think you should, but if you have a long-term sentence, if you're in there 5, 10 years, do you really even need the stimulus payment? You know, and it depends, like, if you're in the middle of your sentence, what are you gonna do with that money anyway? And the point behind the stimulus payment is to stimulate the economy. So giving this money to people in prison doesn't really do any good if they can't spend the money, right? Let me know your thoughts on that. I'm kind of really interested to see what you guys think about that. Should people in prison and jail be receiving $1,200 stimulus payments, or should they not? Let me know in the comments below. And these restrictions would also be applied retroactively as well, just like the deceased people. If anybody in jail or prison have received the stimulus payment, they would have to give them back. Now, like I mentioned, under the HEALS Act, their stimulus payments would be a lot more protected against creditors. And that was a major issue in the CARES Act. There was nothing set in place to prevent banks from taking the money out of your account and handing it over to the debt collectors. Basically, that means those people would never actually see this money. It'd be going out of their account just as fast as it came in. And the problem with this is people weren't able to spend this money, whether it's to pay rent or buy groceries or just pay their bills, or go out and spend it on something to entertain yourself with. They weren't able to spend the money. And regardless of, you know, what the situation is, the point of the stimulus money is to stimulate the economy. They want you to spend it. It doesn't matter what you spend it on, they want you to spend it. It kind of really defeats the purpose if the bank is just able to take it and pay off your debt with it, you know? But the HEALS Act would solve this problem by protecting against bank garnishment or levied by private creditors or debt collectors. And these protections are also retroactive for people who did not receive their first stimulus. For instance, if you got your first round of stimulus money into your bank and they took it off to pay off your debt, then, you know, you're kind of SOL there. But if you did not get that money yet, say you're still waiting on your first round of stimulus checks, then this law would protect you against that from happening. Now, just like the first round of stimulus checks, the second round under the HEALS Act would not be subject to pay back taxes or other owed debts to federal or state governments. However, if you do owe child support, then there is a chance that the IRS will be able to take that money and apply it to the child support. Now, one of the most important things that we're all concerned about is how are we going to get this money? Because the first round of stimulus checks was an absolute nightmare and extremely unorganized. But I'm happy to say that this time it should go a lot more smoothly with more options for payments. Now, with the first wave of stimulus, the CARES Act used bank accounts registered with your tax return refunds from 2018 or 2019. However, the only problem with that is not everybody gets a refund. So basically, if you didn't have your information already set from your previous tax returns, then they didn't know where to put this money. So you actually had to go out of your way and register your bank account with the IRS so they know where to send it. And that was the #1 reason for a lot of delays and why people weren't receiving their money to begin with. So you get the paper check in the mail, a direct deposit, but now you'd also be able to receive this money through a Direct Express debit card or a US debit card account or other Treasury sponsored accounts. Just like how the IRS sent out 4 million preloaded debit cards during the first wave of the stimulus payments. So that's all well and good, but where does this leave us with the unemployment boost that has just expired like a week ago, right? Where does that leave us with that? So unemployed workers were receiving an additional $600 federal unemployment boost on top of what they would get from their state. But that expired at the end of July. So what comes next? Well, within the HEALS Act, there is still a federal unemployment boost. However, it's been cut down from $600 to $200, and that would last until October. And after that, states would then shift into a system where they would combine state and federal benefits to replace 70% of workers' prior pay. And the kicker here is there's a cap limit on that set to $500, which means that's all you're gonna get per week compared to the previous $600 every single week on top of what your state would pay you. But this, we're capping that off at $500. Now, whether you agree with this system or you don't agree with it, it doesn't really matter. It's just their thoughts behind this is they're trying to lean everybody off of that higher dollar amount. Instead of just cutting it cold turkey, they're kind of giving you some and slowly leaning you off. And yeah, that's what they're doing. Now, because this is going to be a combination of federal and state benefits, it will vary depending on where you live and how much you're going to get. For example, states like Mississippi, Arizona, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, and Tennessee would cap their aid off between $200 and $300 per week. Whereas if you lived in states like New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Minnesota, and Washington would cap their weekly unemployment benefits between $700 and $800. I really want to know what you guys truly think about this unemployment boost. Should we continue with the $600 boost every single week on top of the state benefits, or should we kind of transition to this new system where you would get a $200 boost every single week on top of the state amount, and then after October, you would get about 70% supplemental income? What do you think about that? Let me know in the comments right now below. I do read all of them and I respond to most of them, and I love getting your feedback. Now, honestly, guys, I really don't know what to expect in the next coming weeks, or the next coming months. I don't really see anything happening with this anytime soon, just by looking at our history here of how long it's taken us to get to the point where we are and how much has actually gotten accomplished in the past couple months. I mean, the HEROES Act came out back in May, and here we are now in August, and there's just a whole giant gap just missing there, right? And the first wave of stimulus went out in mid-April. So April, May, June, July, August, I mean, we're 4 months since our last payment. So I really don't know what to expect in the next coming weeks or anything, but we're gonna have to sit tight and find out. So that's exactly why you guys should go ahead and subscribe right now. This way I can keep you guys updated with everything you need to know. Now, on my channel, I cover everything to do with finance, investing, entrepreneurship, and money. So if you guys like money, then you're in the right place. Go ahead, hit subscribe, stick around, and help the channel grow. And if there's anything specifically that you want to know something more about, or you want me to make a video about, let me know in the comments below. Like I said, I read them all and I respond to most of them, and I would love to make a video about a topic that you guys are interested in. But before you do that, one more thing. If you guys made it this far in the video, then obviously you enjoyed it. So why don't you show me that you did, show that appreciation, and smash that like button, make it turn blue. It greatly helps out with the algorithm, and I put a lot of time into these videos, and I really appreciate your help. Anyway, guys, that wraps it up for today's video. So with that said, thank you very much for watching. I'm Jim Leadus, and I'll see you on the next one.